It started with a cruel challenge that everyone in the executive dining hall believed would destroy one man's dignity forever. Hundreds of employees froze as billionaire CEO Victoria Ashcroft smiled coldly across the table and publicly pointed toward the quiet single father who had just finished repairing a broken coffee machine during his lunch break. With cameras from a company promotional event still recording, she mocked his simple clothes, his worn shoes, and the lunch packed by his little daughter before daring him to date her younger sister for 1 month, convinced that no educated, successful woman would ever choose a struggling widowed father. The room erupted with uncomfortable laughter, but no one noticed that her younger sister had quietly been watching from the doorway, and tears had already begun filling her eyes before anyone even understood why. Before we continue, if you believe kindness is stronger than pride, forgiveness is greater than revenge, and hope can change even the hardest heart, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our growing family and community where every story reminds us that compassion always matters. The man standing in the center of the room was named Graham Mercer. At 38, life had carved quiet strength into every line of his face. 5 years earlier he had lost his wife, Claire, after a sudden illness that had left him raising their 6-year-old daughter, Elsie, completely alone. Since then every sunrise belonged to his daughter. Every breakfast was homemade, every school project carefully completed together, every afternoon filled with laughter even when there was barely enough money for groceries. Graham worked as a maintenance technician inside Ashcroft Dynamics, one of the largest engineering companies in the country. Few people knew he possessed remarkable intelligence because he never spoke about the engineering degree he had abandoned after Claire became sick. Life had simply demanded different priorities. Victoria Ashcroft had built a reputation for brilliance and impossible standards. Investors admired her fearless leadership, competitors feared her negotiations, and employees respected her results while quietly fearing her sharp tongue. She believed weakness slowed progress, and she judged people almost instantly by appearances. Success had become her identity so completely that compassion rarely entered her decisions. Her younger sister, Eleanor Ashcroft, could not have been more different. A pediatric physical therapist, Eleanor spent every day helping injured children learn to walk again. She valued patience over prestige and kindness over wealth. She rarely attended company events because the world of billion-dollar deals felt empty compared with helping children smile again. She had arrived at headquarters only to deliver family documents to Victoria when she witnessed the humiliating challenge. Instead of lowering his head, Graham simply smiled with remarkable calm. He thanked Victoria for believing her sister deserved someone honest, then quietly explained that dating should never be a punishment or a joke. His response stunned everyone because there was not a trace of anger in his voice. There was only dignity. Eleanor stepped forward before anyone else could react. She gently introduced herself to Graham and surprised the entire room by saying she would rather spend an afternoon with someone who respected people than another dinner listening to executives boast about themselves. Silence filled the hall. Victoria laughed awkwardly, convinced her sister was simply making a point. She never imagined Eleanor meant every word. The following Saturday morning, under bright blue skies, Graham met Eleanor at the local botanical gardens. He arrived with Elsie because childcare arrangements had unexpectedly fallen through. Graham apologized repeatedly, assuming the date would end before it began. Instead, Eleanor knelt beside Elsie, admired the colorful wildflowers she had collected, and spent the next hour listening to stories about butterflies, school art projects, and favorite books. That simple morning changed something inside all three of them. Graham realized Eleanor saw people instead of appearances. Eleanor discovered Graham possessed extraordinary patience, quiet humor, and remarkable emotional strength. Elsie, who had spent years avoiding new adults after losing her mother, laughed freely beside Eleanor as though they had known each other forever. Word spread rapidly throughout Ashcroft Dynamics. Employees who had witnessed Victoria's challenge expected disaster, but every weekend brought another daytime outing. They volunteered together at a children's hospital fundraiser. They visited a community garden where Graham repaired broken benches without accepting payment. They attended a neighborhood reading festival where Eleanor watched Graham patiently encourage nervous children learning to read aloud. the gossip inside headquarters slowly transformed. People who once overlooked Graham began noticing how many complicated maintenance problems he solved before engineers even recognized them. Several younger technicians admitted Graham had quietly mentored them for years without taking credit. Victoria refused to believe what she was hearing. She ordered background investigations, expecting to uncover hidden motives. Instead, investigators returned with something she never anticipated. Graham had no debt despite his modest salary because he lived carefully. Every extra dollar went toward his daughter's education and medical charity supporting families affected by the illness that had taken Claire's life. He volunteered every month without publicity. Former professors described him as one of the brightest engineering students they had ever taught. He had sacrificed his career without complaint because caring for his dying wife mattered more than professional success. For the first time in years, Victoria found herself unable to criticize someone. Still unwilling to admit she had been wrong, she convinced herself Graham had somehow manipulated everyone's sympathy. Several weeks later, Ashcroft Dynamics prepared to unveil an advanced manufacturing system during a public daytime demonstration attended by investors, journalists, and government officials. It represented years of development and hundreds of millions of dollars. Just minutes before the presentation, one critical control system suddenly failed. Engineers panicked, consultants argued, executives shouted instructions. Every minute of delay threatened enormous financial losses. While chaos spread, Graham quietly observed the malfunction from across the room. He politely requested permission to inspect the equipment. Victoria almost refused. Then, realizing she had no better option, she reluctantly nodded. Within minutes, Graham identified an overlooked design flaw hidden beneath multiple software warnings. Instead of replacing expensive hardware as engineers suggested, he adjusted one overlooked mechanical alignment that restored the entire system instantly. The demonstration proceeded flawlessly, investors applauded, journalists praised the company's innovation. No one outside the room ever realized disaster had been only moments away. Victoria stood silently watching Graham return his tools to their case before quietly walking away without asking for recognition. Something inside her finally cracked. That afternoon she entered the maintenance department for the first time in years. She saw Graham eating lunch beside other technicians, laughing over homemade sandwiches packed by Elsie. There were no luxury meals, no expensive watches, no designer suits. Yet the room felt warmer than any executive boardroom she had ever entered. She suddenly wondered when success had stopped feeling like happiness. Meanwhile, Eleanor found herself falling deeply in love, not because Graham rescued machines, not because others praised him, but because every decision he made revealed quiet integrity. When Elsie became nervous before a school recital, Graham spent his lunch break practicing lines with her beneath a tree outside the school. When an elderly neighbor struggled to repair a fence, Graham cancelled personal plans to help. When Eleanor apologized for her sister's behavior, Graham never spoke with bitterness. He simply said, "Everyone carries wounds that others cannot see." Those words haunted Victoria. Months earlier she would have dismissed them as sentimental nonsense. Now they echoed constantly through her mind. One bright autumn afternoon, Victoria visited the cemetery where their parents rested. She had avoided it for years because work always seemed more important. Standing beside their graves, she remembered her mother's favorite lesson: character is revealed by how gently you treat people who cannot benefit you. She realized she had spent years doing exactly the opposite. The next morning she called an all-company meeting. Employees entered expecting another business announcement. Instead, Victoria stood alone without presentation slides, financial reports, or prepared speeches. Her voice trembled. She publicly admitted she had humiliated an innocent man. She confessed that her pride had blinded her to genuine character. She apologized directly to Graham before every employee who had witnessed the original challenge. No one moved. Many quietly wiped away tears. Graham accepted her apology immediately, not because she was wealthy, not because she was powerful, but because forgiveness had always been the lesson Claire wanted Elsie to remember. Victoria then announced sweeping changes throughout Ashcroft Dynamics. Maintenance workers, custodians, assistants, security staff, and executives would all participate equally in leadership listening sessions. Promotions would include evaluations of compassion and mentorship alongside performance. Employee family support programs expanded dramatically. The culture of the company slowly transformed. Months later, under warm afternoon sunshine in a small countryside park, Graham asked Eleanor to marry him. There were no luxury helicopters.no orchestra.no television cameras, only wildflowers, laughing children, gentle wind, and Elsie proudly holding a small wooden ring box she had helped decorate by hand. Eleanor answered with joyful tears before wrapping both Graham and Elsie into the longest embrace of her life. Even Victoria cried openly, not because her sister had found love, but because she had finally understood that wealth could purchase comfort, influence, and opportunity, yet none of those things could ever replace humility, kindness, or genuine family. Their wedding took place on a beautiful spring afternoon surrounded by friends, co-workers, neighbors, and children whose lives Eleanor had helped change. Graham carried a photograph of Claire inside his jacket, honoring the woman who had shaped the man he became. Eleanor held Elsie's hand as they walked together, silently promising that love does not erase the past but gently builds hope upon it. Victoria stood before everyone with tears shining openly as she welcomed Graham into their family. She admitted that the greatest business decision she had ever made was not acquiring another company or signing another billion-dollar contract. It was learning to admit she had been wrong and allowing kindness to teach her what success never could. Years later, employees still spoke about the day a cruel dare unexpectedly became the beginning of an extraordinary family. New workers often assumed it was only an inspiring company legend until they saw Graham greeting every employee by name, Eleanor volunteering with children during community events, Elsie growing into a confident young woman who treated every person with warmth, and Victoria smiling more than anyone remembered possible. The challenge meant to humiliate one single father had instead rescued an entire family from loneliness, restored compassion inside a powerful company, and reminded countless people that dignity can never be measured by a paycheck, a title, or a tailored suit. It is measured by the quiet choices we make when no reward is waiting. Before we finish, please leave a meaningful comment telling us what touched your heart most about this story, or share a moment when kindness changed your own life. Your words may encourage someone who desperately needs hope today. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that the strongest people are rarely those who stand above everyone else. They are the ones who quietly lift others up, forgive when it is difficult, love without conditions, and prove every single day that hope can grow from even the deepest wounds.